Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge, and let's talk horror. Now, today I am joined by the amazing Romeo, aka NightmareCript. How you doing today, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Just my day off, so I'm just chillaxing.
Well, dude, thank you for spending a little bit of your day off with me.
Yeah, of course.
Talk a little bit about you first before we get into the reason why you are here. You are a director and a horror YouTuber. So, one thing I want to talk about. What is the difference for you between directing and doing your own stuff on YouTube? Like, is there a big bridge in between the two of those, or are they pretty similar? Like, what's the differences between the two?
Well, I actually haven't made like an actual like horror short yet, but
Mhm.
I am planning some stuff, and like I have done like skits and whatnot, and it's all like it's more work than what I'm usually doing, and so it takes a lot out. And during the production, I'm like sort of iffy about it, and then when it actually like comes to the full fruition, I'm like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And that's how I am with most projects.
Well, and the thing is, you guys don't have to go far to search for them because, as always, all the social media links, as well as all the YouTube channel, is all available down here in the description for NightmareCript. So make sure you're checking that out. Make sure you're following on social media. Make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube so you can stay up to date on everything. God, I sounded so old just now. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to his YouTube channel so that way you can stay up to date on everything that he's doing and everything he has coming up in the future. So, we know that you've done a couple of shorts and things like that, but when it comes to your YouTube channel, what do you guys do over there at NightmareCript?
Well, it's mostly been like horror news, but now I'm starting to like branch out into like video essays, if you know what those are.
Mhm.
I'm trying to do more of those and like talk about like project like horror games, horror movies that are underrated, and even some canceled horror movies and horror video games. The shelved
So,
horror franchise that I'm doing.
okay, well, you talk about underrated horror films. In your opinion, what is the most underrated horror film of all time?
Man, that's pretty hard. There's some really good ones. I know that definitely one of the main ones is a movie called Urban Legend.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. But there's other ones as well, like House of Wax, the 2005 remake. Then there's The Hills Run Red. I actually,
Mhm.
real quick, let me show you something pretty cool I got that no one knows I have yet.
Oh, dude, that's sick.
Dude, this thing was so expensive. This is like I think almost $300.
Oh, it's worth it. That thing looks dope.
Yeah, I'm putting together a cosplay actually, and so I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, man, that's sick. I'm still going to go out and say that I think the most underrated horror film of all time, even though it's starting to gather a cult following now, for me, it's got to be The Exorcist 3.
I haven't
A
seen
lot
it.
of people, oh, dude, you have to see it. It's so good. A lot of people, I don't think people realize how great The Exorcist 3 is because they're so used to watching the original and how great that is. Or you watch
Oh
part
yeah.
two and see how dog shit part two is. But man, when you watch part three, I feel like part three is the best of the bunch. I think the original Exorcist is probably the scariest film of all time.
Yeah.
But I think The Exorcist 3 is my favorite in that franchise. So if you get a
It,
chance, man, check it out and text me afterwards. Let me know what you think, man.
yeah,
Because I think it's dope.
definitely. It has Brad Dourif in it too, doesn't it?
It does, man. And he kills it as the
Yeah, I heard
Gemini
that
killer.
he's yeah, I heard he's really good in it.
Dude, it's amazing. And what you want to talk about amazing? How about an amazing fucking segue that is? So we're here, my friend. You wouldn't be talking horror if it didn't start somewhere for you. So we're
Yeah.
talking Brad Dourif. So let's go back to the past and talk about how horror started for you, your first horror movie. And if you guys haven't been able to tell by my ensemble or by his background, your first horror movie, NightmareCript, was
It was Bride of Chucky.
what an amazing way to start your horror life. I was recently a guest on a podcast, and it's funny enough, they were asking why Chucky is so iconic to me. Like, what makes Chucky an icon in my eyes? And it's just one of those things where, to me, Chucky is look at how much the franchise has grown but stayed the same at the same time. You can always include something new. You can bring in a bride,
Yeah.
you can bring in a child, you can bring in a cult, but it all still follows essentially the same guidelines throughout. It's got a lot of the best kills. Child's Play is my favorite horror franchise, top to bottom. I think if we're going by what the best horror franchise is when it comes to consistency, I'm probably going to go with Scream. But when it comes to my absolute favorite and entertaining, Child's Play will always be my favorite horror franchise. So, do you know how old you were the first time you had seen it?
I want to say I was about 2 or 3. Funny enough, I was over at my aunt's as when I was like a toddler, and I had stumbled upon Bride of Chucky, like the VHS of it, and I had put it in, and I've just been hooked ever since.
Dude, and I don't blame you. I think Bride of Chucky is one of the better in the franchise. Now I get like, the couple in the movie's kind of fucking annoying, but
oh yeah,
man, there's
Jesse
so much. Yeah, there's so much good in the movie. The kills are great. Chucky and Tiffany's back and forth is awesome throughout the whole film. So you already talked about how old you were. You were with your aunt when you watched it, but which scene for Bride of Chucky would you say it was that affected you the most?
It was it was that birth scene. Dude, I tell you, when I was a kid, that freaked me out. That disturbed me. I would have to turn off the movie at that point. I would always ask my mom to turn it off whenever it reached that point. I couldn't watch it.
Dude, and it's funny because this is not me talking shit or anything like that, but I feel so old because I remember seeing this in the cinema. And then you're talking about how you were like 2 or 3, and I'm like, damn, like, I'm an old man now. But dude, it's what I think is great about that is we're in different generations. And this movie could still mean so much to us, even with that age gap. And I think that's what's so amazing about horror is it doesn't matter how young or old you are. Your horror knowledge is what makes you the person that you are in the horror world. And, I'm getting up there in age, but I'm still, hanging out and talking to you guys and talking about how much horror means to you and how it started for you. And that's a great feeling for me to be able to, be a little bit older and still know that this younger generation is kicking ass and starting off with Bride of Chucky, a movie that is just so fucking dope. It's so good.
Oh, definitely.
So we know giving birth to our little shit face was the scene that affected you the most. But what would you say your favorite scene from Bride of Chucky is?
Man, that's hard because there's some really good scenes. I would probably say like that whole probably the third act, where they're in the graveyard. That whole section is pretty dope, and just the whole soundtrack as well. Like I want to mention how great the score, the music itself that they played in the film. It was just all phenomenal, and that gothic vibe that they have for the whole film.
So good. And what I love about this movie is we talked earlier about, to me, why Chucky is so iconic, but this movie really takes it and it pushes it in a meta direction, and it works for me. Like when you have the nails going into John Ritter's head when they're in the van and he falls over and he looks just like Pinhead, and Chucky's like, why does that look so familiar? Little things like that, I think they nail it when they did that. And I love the fact that when you watch Child's Play, there's really no comedy to that. Like it's just a killer doll that needs to get back into a human body. Then you go from there to Child's Play 2 and you sprinkle in a little bit of comedy here and there. Child's Play 3 is probably, when it comes to the perfect mix of horror and comedy, I think Child's Play 3 is where it's at. Bride goes a little bit into the more meta comedy aspect, but it still works. Like it still works at this point. Even the beginning, when they're looking through the evidence lockers and you see the Michael mask, the Jason mask, the Freddy glove, the Texas chainsaw.
Those are cool nods.
Dude, amazing. And Don Mancini's been there since day one. And for him to come in and acknowledge all these other horror tropes or other horror icons that mean just as much to him, amazing. So there are no, you're not left wanting any kills after watching this movie. There is a long list of kills that go with Bride of Chucky, but which kill would you say is your favorite?
Man, there's a lot of good ones. I'd probably say like the I can't really I want to kind of say John Ritter, but he doesn't actually die till later in the film. But I would probably say like that mirror scene where it throws up the bottle and it cuts them all up and they're in the bed. That was pretty
Yes,
dope.
dude.
That was all
Yes.
shot very cool.
See, and I love the fact that a lot of the practical effects that go into the Child's Play films is another reason why I love them so much. They're not afraid to use puppets,
Yeah.
ventriloquist, and everything that they do with the practical effects is great. And that's another scene that they sprinkle the CGI in, but it's just as an enhancement. They don't rely on it. So
yeah, exactly. That's why I want to be a filmmaker too. I just love those like the special effects and stuff, and it's really neat the way that they do it all and stuff.
Well, and that's another reason why we can't let physical media die. You don't get to watch a lot of the behind the scenes shit when you're watching Netflix or Shutter. That's why I love physical media. I love watching director's commentary. I love watching behind the scenes and seeing how they put everything together. I think that's amazing. Even if you're not a filmmaker, to go in and learn how they're doing these things it's brilliant. I love to watch that stuff.
It's pure passion overall.
It really is. We talk about remakes now, remakes, requels, prequels, sequels. They're all the rage right now. And we did get a Child's Play remake in 2019. Now, were you a fan of the Child's Play remake, or did it really not, push your buttons at all?
Honestly, I at first hated the idea of a Child's Play remake, but I watched it. I went to theaters. I had to actually go out of town to see it. And I was honestly surprised. I was like, wow, this actually ain't half bad. I really liked it.
I love it. I love the fact that they have nothing to do with Charles Lee Ray. That's already been done. It's already been done great.
Yeah.
If you've watched my episode of Versus on Child's Play 88 versus the remake, you'll know the only real problem I have with that film is I wish they would have called it Buddy Doll from the world of Child's Play, because they could have done so much more if they would have focused more on the fact that this was a buddy doll instead of the Child's Play name. So that little name tweak to me could have meant the whole world. But
because I honestly wouldn't mind seeing a sequel myself.
And you know what? Because the same studio that did Child's Play doesn't own the rights to Child's Play 2. So even if they wanted to do a sequel, they couldn't call it Child's Play 2. So they wrote themselves in a corner anyway. Now, if they would have done Buddy Doll from the world of Child's Play, they could have done a sequel with that Buddy Bear and called it Buddy Bear from the world of Child's Play. They could continue in the world of,
but
they wouldn't have had to have they wouldn't have had to have stapled themselves down to just Child's Play. That was the biggest bummer to me. And the fact Don Mancini was like, don't ruin my shit. And they were like, yeah, fuck you. That really bothered me too. But
yeah, that kind of rubbed me off wrong. But I still thought that the remake was pretty good.
I love it. Like I said, I genuinely love the remake. It's gory, it's bloody, it's its own original film inside of a remake. It's everything I love in a remake. So we know that Bride of Chucky. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say that the buddy doll grows on you after a while.
Yeah, he does. Like I said, when I first seen him, I hated it. I was like, this doll looks like shit.
Yeah, same.
But, I'm glad they didn't use the same doll, because like I said, Child's Play is being continued in the Chucky TV series now. So I'm glad that we still have those two separate worlds to go through. And people are like, oh, well, I don't like when they have separate worlds. Listen, Halloween has like 8 different timelines. Texas Chainsaw has like 37 different timelines. I don't give a shit about timelines. Just entertain me with the movie. That's all I ask.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things ever. Well, I mean, the Zelda video games. I love the Zelda video games. None of them stick to any type of continuity at all, because you're supposed to go into each one of them as its own new, unique game. Do that with the movies. I don't give a shit. Entertain me.
I've never played the Zelda games, but I've always wanted to play those.
So dope, dude. So dope. They're great. NightmareCript, we know that Bride of Chucky was your first horror movie, but now I want to kind of throw you a little bit of a curveball here. My little buddy Ghostface here has a question for you. What's your favorite scary movie, Nightmare? What is your favorite horror movie of all time?
So, like, other than like Bride of Chucky?
Would Bride of Chucky be your favorite or just your first? I mean, what's your favorite?
I would say, honestly, it'd be between, because that's kind of hard. So I always jump back and forth. That'd be between probably like Child's Play 2 and John Carpenter's The Thing. Because Child's Play 2, I would say, is probably my favorite Chucky movie. That's where they took the ideas of Child's Play 1, they expanded on them, and they did it justice. It did some really cool stuff for Child's Play 2. So I'd have to say that's like my favorite Chucky movie, and that's between like, I'm thinking that could either be like my favorite horror movie of all time, or it could like be John Carpenter's Thing. That's another great one. It's hard because
Dude,
I always jump between them. They're both great movies.
they are both amazing movies. And I'll say this, Child's Play 3 is my personal favorite in the Child's Play franchise, but Child's Play 2 has my favorite kill of all time with the eyes coming
Oh
down on him while
yeah.
he's laying on the conveyor belt. Like, I fucking love that shit. And The Thing, if we were talking earlier about underrated horror movies, well, The Thing isn't an underrated horror movie because everybody adores it. I think it has the most underrated score of all time. Like,
Oh, it
that
has a great
score,
score.
oh, just as good as Halloween. Like, just as good, if not
Hmm.
better than the score for Halloween. Like, I
I
love the score
agree.
of The Thing. And what an unsettling movie. I love it so much. So that's another one I could talk about for hours and hours. But
I think that that's better than Halloween, in my opinion. I love that movie so much.
oh, dude, anybody, actually, I think it's more of a hot take to say Halloween's better than The Thing. Like, that's how much, like, let's be honest, the first Halloween, look it, I love it. And I love it so much. I still have the score on cassette tape. Like,
Oh
that's how
wow.
much I love Halloween. Like, I do, the original Halloween 1978 has grown on me, but to put that even in the same universe as what The Thing is, when it comes to suspense, practical effects, acting, like the whole story, like The Thing is just, I hate to be that guy, but it's on a whole nother planet, a thing from another planet, like it's
Yeah.
just, it's a whole, it's in its own, a world of its own. And again, everybody knows I talk shit on Michael Myers. Listen, I don't hate Michael Myers, but he's my wife's favorite. So I gotta bash him a little bit. I could take him, Ash. I'm telling you right now, I could take him. But
Mm.
Buster Rhymes took him, man. Come on, I could take Michael. But the thing is,
Buster
like,
Rhymes.
The Thing just stands on its own to me. Like, that movie, like the suspense that's carried throughout that movie, it's just it's pretty
Yeah.
damn close to the perfect horror movie. One of my best friends growing up, his name's Chris Marshall. He's the one that really introduced me to The Thing, and I just remember watching this movie and being like, dude, how did I miss out on this movie? Like,
Do I hear
I
something
don't know how I
crazy?
missed out. Yeah.
How I started with The Thing is I started with the prequel, which is way less, like it's not nearly as good. And then years later, I watched one did by John Carpenter, and I was like, God damn! And I forgot all about the prequel. And I was like,
And what
wow, I've been
what
missing out.
what really bums me out is they filmed that whole prequel with practical effects, and then the studio was like, no, and they went over top of it with CGI.
Oh yeah, that
Release the
sucked.
practical effect version, please. Give us the director's cut, because I don't think The Thing prequel is bad. Like, I
I
think
don't
that
think it is
the
either.
no, I think it's a really good movie, but the CGI pisses me off because, and
Yeah.
I've said this numerous times, my three favorite practical effect movies: The Thing, A Nightmare on Elm Street, American Werewolf in London. With The Thing, you got a prequel that fucked it up with CGI. American Werewolf in London got a sequel, American Werewolf in Paris, that fucked it up with CGI. And Nightmare on Elm Street got a remake that you fucked up with CGI. So that,
Yeah.
when you have these movies that are so great with their practical effects and they get shit on, and again, I don't think the Nightmare on Elm Street remake is bad. I'm hot take, I guess. I don't think the Thing prequel is bad. And I really, really don't think that American Werewolf in Paris is good. Like, that's the only one that I can say is dog shit. But
I've never seen
I
that
think that
one, but I've heard it's bad.
don't like don't. It's just, it's not good. But what it goes back to is these, maybe if I had grown up in a different time, maybe if someone watched those movies today for the first time and went in blind on them, they'd be like, hey, I like the remake or the prequel or the sequel better. And that's what I love about the horror world. We can have disagreements, but we still love each other because we still want to talk horror. So
Yeah.
before I let you go, my friend, I appreciate you coming out and kicking it with me and talking about
Yeah.
Chucky and The Thing and, all things horror. But we're going to go back to Bride of Chucky. And what we're going to do, NightmareCript, is we are going to rank this on a skull count. Now, we're not judging this movie on acting, production, score, nothing like that. What we're doing is strictly ranking Bride of Chucky on how much it affected you on first viewing. So 0 skulls being not effective, 5 being extremely effective. You can use half and quarter skulls anywhere in the middle. What would your ranking of Bride of Chucky be?
It'd probably be like a 5 because look where we are. Look at all the dolls
Right.
behind me, and it's just, I don't know. It just kind of influenced my love for horror movies. Why I want to be a filmmaker, and
Sure.
it's just been a lot. Like it's kind of been a big part of my life all these years, and so I definitely have to say like a 5, just because
Well,
of
and
that. Then, well,
that's why I don't ever ask people to judge it on the movie itself, because I can only give one perfect rating to a movie, and that's Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I think Pee-wee's Big Adventure is the only perfect movie I've ever seen.
I've never seen that either. Movies,
oh, dude, it's perfect. Like, it's literally perfect. There's nothing wrong with Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Tim Burton did it. It's got its little sprinkles of horror in there. It's hilarious. It's action, like it's ironic. There's so much about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I'm serious. Like, dude, the only movie I've ever given a 100% perfect rating to is Pee-wee's Big Adventure, followed very closely by the original Nightmare on Elm Street. You take out the last 5 minutes of that movie, it's a fucking perfect movie, man. It's so good. But I hate the blow up doll going through the window. I hate the stupid fucking Freddy car. I'm out on all that shit. But seriously, man, before you and I talk again, you got to watch The Exorcist 3. You got to watch Pee-wee's Big Adventure. You got to never, ever watch American Werewolf in Paris. So those three things have to happen before we talk again. So we are at the end of the third act, guys. The credits are about to roll and the curtain is about to drop. But before it does, there are some links down here in the description that need your click, and make sure you're following and subscribing on the YouTube channel. So Romeo, don't go anywhere, my friend. I got a couple more questions for you. Everybody else, as always, keep talking horror, stay what you are, and we'll see you guys soon.